All right, 12 o'clock. Um, Hello, I'm Patrick Kelly. I'm coming to you live from our Atlanta Alpharetta MTC office. So I'm traveling this week. So certainly bear with me as I'm demoing from a Surface instead of just my regular screen. So a little bit of a learning pain here. So let me get that canceled and let me slideshow that deck up there. All right, cool. So again, Patrick Kelly, I am one of your Microsoft Teams black belts for the Try This at Work. Kelly Cleveland is at another function today, so she won't be joining us today, but she's always part of the team as well. So today's live event is subject is live events. Obviously, the agenda is to review what live events does, why you would use it, the use cases for it, walk through a couple of a slide deck and demos on how to set that up, and then discuss the strategies of eCDN and the use cases of using that functionality within Teams itself. So live events, what is it? Um, why would you use it? What are the use case scenarios? So think of live events as a different modality than Teams, right? So when we talk about Microsoft Teams and the collaboration effect of meetings, we are discussing meetings and talking about meetings when it comes to what we call 250 people and less. Microsoft views as a collaboration metric for useful meetings, right? So obviously when you either have a scheduled meeting or an ad hoc meeting, you are going to have a number of people, 8 to 10 to 12 to up to 250, right? And you can turn on video, you can turn on audio, you can share desktop, you can share laptop, PowerPoint presentations. Everyone in that meeting can be a presenter or present audio and video. Great for collaboration, right? Great for team cohesion, great to get stuff done. But not so great if that number is above 250, right? Because at 250 you and above, you are not really collaborating per se in your meeting, right? You're not having 250 people share their video and share their audio and discuss strategies. That's really not what it's designed to do. So when we see that 250 limit hit, we typically are seeing meetings change the way they broadcast, right? So when I say that, live events is meant for those type of meetings. So think of Microsoft Teams as that smaller collaboration meeting. Think of live events as a multicast or event where you are presenting data, whether one or multiple presenters are presenting data to end users or attendees. So as attendees are consuming this data, you only have presenters obviously broadcasting the data. It's not really a collaborative type of event. It's more of a consumption type of event, right? So live events is more geared toward those webcasts or live event where we're broadcasting data, whether it's a CIO or a CEO giving quarterly numbers, or we'll discuss that in a minute. But this is meant for the up to 10,000 people, right? So 10,000 people consuming this data can attend a live event. And those attendees can join from any Teams or URL browser enabled device, right? So I can join from a laptop or a desktop or a kiosk or even my mobile phone, right? So really intended to touch a lot of people from that broadcasting perspective. How do we produce these events? Well, we use Teams to produce the event, right? So right now, I scheduled this live event within Teams. I then actually Kelly scheduled it, just so you know, scheduled it and made me a producer. So I can then control what happens during this live meeting. I can have multiple presenters lined up in the live meeting, right? So if I wanted to have maybe a PowerPoint deck and 3 or 4 presenters waiting in queue to go live, as a producer, I control that action. And I'll show you a screenshot of that. Um, administrators can manage live event features. So Teams admins can also view and look at live events from the portal. So you can obviously measure the usage of these live events, who's in charge or who's the producer and presenters during these live events, track the usage of these live events as well. So a couple of different functionalities there. So basically 3 different roles, right? You have a producer, you have a presenter, and then you have an attendee. Today, I'm a producer and presenter, so you can do that in multiple ways. So and we'll get into a little bit more, but think about a big production level meeting. You'd probably want to have a couple of producers and a couple of presenters, because if you have a couple of producers, what that allows is kind of a fault tolerance, right? So should the main producer's laptop or desktop go out, the other producer can still continue on with the show. So a couple of best practices, and we'll talk about those in a second. So live events, again, to recap, are those multicast, thousands of people being involved in the consumption of those events. Not to say that you can't produce a live event and 10 people are involved or view it, but just think those 10 people are just consuming that data. They're not really collaborating at that point. So your audience should really be catered to what you're trying to deliver. Let's get to this slide. So a couple of scenarios I want to walk through of why you would use a live event, right? So say in this fictitious example, Contoso, as my company, has offices all over the world with thousands of employees. Right, and Heidi is the CEO of Contoso, and she wants to have a monthly all hands call. So Heidi decides that we're going to leverage live events to broadcast this call to all employees. So every employee has access to this live event. Right, and what that allows you to do, everybody from all over the world can then leverage the power of Azure and CDN, our content delivery network, to connect to the closest data center, our Peerpoint for their live event, and this can stream broadcast globally. What that allowed to do is allow Heidi, the CEO, to give her monthly maybe update on the status of the business. Maybe it's give monthly numbers, whatever it is. Users or the attendees will be able to consume that data from any device, right? Any Teams enabled device or browser. Another scenario might be a webcast, right? So Contoso, Heidi's given her monthly statement and says, hey, we have a new product coming out. Let's do a webcast and really announce this new product, right? So Hans is he's the marketing lead, and he's in Austria, right? And he wants to talk about this new product with the world. And this could be maybe a live event for customers and partners, and not just an internal event. So we'll talk about that in a second, because live events can have a different audience. So just like we talked about the 3 roles, right? The producer, the presenter, and the attendee. You are going to produce live events based on where your attendees are at or who they are. So for Heidi's CEO monthly call, she's going to target her internal employees, right? That's not a public call, that's just an internal call. But Hans, who is responsible for marketing a brand new product, his target is not internal employees for the new product. Obviously, the product's targeted to the consumer, their target audience, their target product is meant for those customers and partners that are buying the product. So he's going to make his meeting a public meeting, right? So everyone in the world can join, whether it's an internal employee or an external customer. So a couple of just scenarios of why you would use live events and how you would utilize it. So the great thing about the live events is that's completely scalable. With the power of Azure and the power of our networking capabilities with CDN or content delivery networks, we can scale these meetings from 1 to 10,000. And when I say 10,000, there's not a really hard limit, right? It's not that 10,000 and first person doesn't get in. We've just tested it and feel comfortable with it at that 10,000 limit. Not to say that if you have more, if you want to do 20 and 30, you can't, but you would want to contact the Microsoft account team and get help and assistance with live events that are that big. A couple of things that can happen in the live event is that we leverage AI for all these features. So a couple of things that you can do is after this live event, and this actually got announced live yesterday, right? Is that live events will have closed captioning in it. It has it in there today as a preview. You can do up to 6 different languages. So after the live event, you are going to get a report, not only the captions within Microsoft Stream, but also the translation services. So what that means is after this event, after this live event, even the one I'm doing today, right, I will then, that live event will be recorded and then saved in Microsoft Stream, which is obviously our video service in Office 365. That Office 365 stream will then have all those captions as part of it, all those speech to text, searchable indexes, as well as all the translations available. Then you can download that and as an individual user, and you can disseminate that video however you'd like. After these live events, if you guys can go to the Try This at Work page, you'll see the past events. I've actually uploaded these recordings to YouTube, so you can consume that content whenever you'd like. Some interaction. When I say it's not a collaboration type meeting, that is true, but we do have interactive QA, right? So you have question and answers that can be moderated. So as you have your 10,000 people in your meeting, people can be asking Q&A questions during the live meeting broadcast. And I can either, as a producer, read those live, or I can have another presenter read those live, or I could have another presenter be answering those QAs live and then displaying those within my live meeting. My live event, live meeting. They dated myself with that one. So that's optional, completely configurable on your part. You can optionally record it as well. It's not a default that it records. You certainly control all of that. At the end of the meeting, what'll happen is, as I indicated, that meeting can be recorded and put into Stream with all the translation and transcription being done. But you also will get an attendee engagement report. And what that allows you to do is see how many people joined your meeting, see when they joined the meeting, so you can get some sort of metrics involved on your attendee responses. As we indicated, you can consume live events anywhere, right? You're just connecting to the internet from any device. So whether it's a cell phone, a tablet, a laptop, or desktop, all you'll be able to join is you launch this event today to join. It's just a URL, right? So when we create these live events, it's literally a URL, and then you can disseminate that URL however you want. If you want to create an internal Teams meeting and put that URL there, you certainly can. You also have the ability to maybe embed that into a web page like we do for Try This at Work. However you want to share that URL link, completely up to you. Live events delivered with minimal lag, right? We have 55 data centers and counting all over the world, right? And then all those data centers have peer points in major cities all over the world. So when you join a live event, right, even though this live event is taking place in Atlanta, we literally could have somebody in Australia joining this live event today. They would not come to Atlanta to consume that information. They would go to the local data center. Say they're in Sydney, there's a peer point in Sydney, that's where it would stream from. And then from Atlanta to Sydney, that's all dark fiber with prioritization of packets all the way across. So the speed is amazing for live events. And bandwidth can be managed with partner solutions. So we'll talk a little bit about ECDN in a minute, but I want you to know when to use it and when not to use it. So we can schedule all these meetings in advance with Teams. I have this in my calendar for live event, and I'll show you that what it looks like in a second. We can produce the event. So the producer, as I indicated, one of the 3 roles, producer, presenter, and attendee, I can produce this event with any Windows client or any Mac Teams client. Again, multiple producers. So if Heidi's, in the previous example, if Heidi's monthly call she wanted to include other people in that call, they can be presenters as well and display their video and audio during that whole time. If you've used Skype for Business, the meeting broadcast functionality, you remember that it did not have an audio conferencing bridge. So in Teams live events, we actually have that ability to have bridges on these events. So think about it though, right, is these are immersive events with video and audio and PowerPoint slides. The ability to just listen to the audio or present via the audio conferencing solution, probably not the greatest experience, but we understand that there are some times when you need to obviously use audio conferencing, and that does work, right? So it's something we've added to the live events. I can control access to these live events. So I gave you a couple of reasons why you would do that, right? So Hans, in our previous example, wanted to cater to his customers and partners. So he created his live event as a global event. Heidi, her event was targeted toward internal users, so she made her just an all-company event. And then we can also get it down to specific groups and people during those. So if you wanted to do a live event just for your team, you can do that as well. You can control complete access to that. The cool thing about live events too is that I can do it from the simplest of hardware to the most complex of hardware. What I mean in that regard is that today I'm literally on my Surface, right? Showing you a PowerPoint slide. I can just as easily turn on a 4K camera and have a video function, and I'll turn that on in a second. You are also obviously listening to the audio portion, but I just have just a Jabra headset today. What if you had, and Satya, our CEO, does this, what if you had a production level facility with multiple cameras that are production level, with multiple microphones that are production level, and you wanted to mix all that stuff up and broadcast a really professionally Hollywood level broadcast to the masses? You can totally do that, right? We have encoders that are built right in to Teams live events, and you can leverage the power of that as well. So completely customizable, very modular, can meet the need for whatever you want. So here's an example of a live event, right? So I went into Teams, and I went to New Meeting. And when I said New Meeting, there's a drop-down menu. You can see it right there. It says New Live Event. And then I have the ability to pick what kind of live event I'm going to create. So really easy to set up, right? So I can do people and groups at that granular level for a live event. I can do org-wide level live event, and I can do public level live event, all picked from this menu. The fantastic thing is too, you can control this via policy in your Teams admin console. So if you obviously don't maybe want to give everyone in the company the ability to do public global live events, you can control that via policy. And you can apply those policies to individual users. Obviously, some people in the marketing team or your senior leadership team might want to do quarterly, maybe numbers reviews to announce number earnings and want to have those public. Completely would make those public accessible policies, so those senior leadership can create those. Another thing is that you have the ability to control who has the producer and presenter event. So when you create that event, you can control that. So today, when you are a producer, this is what your screen would look like when we fire up live events. So in this fictitious example, we'll just call him Hans on the live event. On the right side in the right window, Hans is giving his consumer marketing review for his new product that they were going to release right on his webcast. And his camera's live, but you can see as a producer, I control what's going on the bottom screen. So I have, looks like Amanda is joining as well on the bottom. Amanda's queued up and ready to go. But I also, before Amanda, I have content that I want to send live. So you can see that little slide where it says how we stack up. That's ready to go live. So I'm ready to go on the left side in that left panel. So as soon as Hans is done talking, I really can send that live, and that'll shift that that slide deck over to the right side, and then I can pull up Amanda and pull her into the queue, and then when Hans is done talking about that slide, I can literally just send Amanda live. So it's really cool how interactive it is from a producer level, and how I can share individual desktop or our PowerPoint slides right in my production level GUI interface. So on the bottom right-hand side, you can see share. It's going to pull up the ability to share individual applications, or it's going to pull up the ability to share multiple monitors. I can control all of that. So this is what it would look like as an attendee, right? So from the previous deck, I have now sent that deck live. I'm going to show you what it looks like from an attendee view. And this is what we can see how that will look to the attendee. And on the right side is the Q&A moderation that we were talking about earlier. So I have the ability to ask questions to the moderator. That moderator can either answer them publicly or answer those messages privately. And then when I answer them publicly, I can then have them go onto the screen so all the attendees can see the questions being asked. So obviously in a big meeting, let's just say with 10,000 people, if the CIO says something important like, hey, everyone won a Surface Pro today, people are going to go crazy, right? And being happy and might post several questions of, when are we going to get this? Like as a moderator, you would maybe only need to present one of those questions. We don't need to have 15 of those people asking the same question and that Q&A moderation being full of the same question. So it can completely controllable. Just another picture there. So one of the things too is, right, is after that live event, we can then see the captions and subtitles on the bottom right-hand side. I can then play back that live event and stream at different speeds, and I could also play back that, control the quality of that playback. So what's it look like after the meeting, right? So just like this one, when this one's done and I end this meeting, we talked about the recording is available to be downloaded. The Q&A report, so you have the written Q&A that happened during the live event. You will then have a transcription of all the questions being asked and the answers. The attendee engagement report, so I can see how many people joined and what time they joined. And then I will have the full transcript available to me as a producer. Only the producer will see this information here. So ECDN, so let's talk a little bit about ECDN, or Enhanced Content Delivery Network. So when you would utilize ECDN is this. We have 3 partners that do it today. We do Hive, Ramp, and Collective, right? Either of those 3 can do this, and they do them in a little different fashion. All 3 of them do it a different way. So say you have a live event with 10,000 people joining, right? And all 10,000 people are in one building, let's say. So every person joining would open up a stream to the live event, which is fine if those 10,000 people are distributed across the world, and consuming bandwidth from 10,000 different places. But now in this example, 10,000 people are in the same building, right? So they have opened up 10,000 streams to TCP level streams to your Office 365 live events. Well, the problem with that is now we've saturated our network bandwidth and our egress and ingress points on the internet for these 10,000 people. Your networking team is probably not going to be too happy with you, right? So when you would do that, we would leverage an ECDN partner. Again, Hive, Collective, or Ramp. In this example, I'm just showing Hive. And what this allows you to do is Hive can then be put on your network. And what it's cool is that now we have those 10,000 people that are joined to a live event. What Hive does, and again, the other 3 as well, what ECDN does is what we're going to do is one person now is actually going to join the live event. And then we're going to have a subscriber model. So other people are just going to join his or her computer, right? Instead of going into the internet, Hive is going to tell us, oh, by the way, Patrick is joined from his computer. There's no reason to go to the internet. We'll just join from Patrick's computer. And then we have 20 people join Patrick's computer, right? And then Patrick's computer gets full from 20 people. And those 20 people, other 20 people join from those other 20 people. So it's kind of a daisy chain effect. And so all that internal bandwidth is being utilized and not internet bandwidth is being utilized. So really, really smart to do if you're using these live events for thousands of people internally to leverage the power of those ECDN networks. works. And here's just some metrics that it looks like, right? So a couple of the things that'll allow you to tell you is how many people were joined, where they joined from in the world, what kind of experience they had from a quality of experience level, maybe what kind of codex they use. All that stuff's available in that Hive experience report. And you can see that Hive Insights, this is my previous slide, that Hive Insights will be collective insights or be ramp insights, all that available as well as soon as your live event is over. Kind of another map of the world of where people joined. In this example, I just had one person, right, to get the screenshot, but you'll be able to tell where everyone at your live event joined from, the geographic location. So really cool to help curb and understand the network capacity of these powerful live events. Just more graphs and stuff, but it's really cool. Certainly you should leverage that if you need that as a business requirement for your live event. So to close out, last couple of minutes here, some best practices for live events is these can be as informal as you want them to be. Certainly just me on the line, I don't need to practice with myself for timing. It's just me talking. But for more formal production level, Hollywood level production of live events, you'd certainly want to do a dry run and rehearsal. Practice how you're going to use the tools from a producer level, time the presenters. No, it's just like a real production. You certainly want to do some rehearsals and do some dry runs. Once you start the live events, that's it, right? You can't stop and then start it again. Once you start it, it's going to go until you end that event. Once you end it, you can't go restart it again. You would actually have to do a whole new event. Obviously, with any sort of internet available application, you are going to want to use a reliable network and test the event ahead of time. So not only do your dry run, the one thing you can't do is obviously test the attendees, and that's why if you had 10,000 or thousands of people joining from an individual office or multiple offices, you'd certainly want to leverage eCDN to curb that bandwidth and traffic. A couple of tips and tricks again is have one person in the event team, have multiple producers with the event team, have multiple people, and when you have multiple producers, have them in different locations. So should an office go out, that other producer can handle that as well. Do the Q&A from a moderation perspective. Don't have the producer do that because it'll be hard to obviously do the whole presentation as well as answer Q&A because there's those gaps that you wouldn't want to do. When you create the URL for the live event, it's rather lengthy, so use some sort of URL service that shortens it. Bitly is obviously one of those. I use AKMS, obviously as a Microsoft employee, so those are helpful to have readable URLs instead of a long one that the live event will create. Start the meeting ahead of time, like I do here. I start the meeting 15 minutes ahead of time and then put a timer on. I certainly want you to do that for your event. That way you can prepare and get everything ready. Keep it muted until you're ready to go live. All these might seem simple, but certainly pretty powerful stuff. The broadcast is delayed a few seconds, like 30 seconds, because it allows it to buffer, allows the AI to take place, and it allows for the production of my live event to Azure streaming service. There is a 30-second delay. So again, not truly real time, but pretty close. All right. I will burn through these slides because I'm running out of time. I see I probably didn't rehearse it well enough, right? And but sometimes I tend to talk a little bit longer. But anyway, this is the deck. I certainly want to make this available to you, and I will make this deck available to you with one of on the post events. You could be able to download this and look at all this information in depth. I don't want to go through all this. I'm right out of time, but I just wanted to thank you for the 30 minutes of your lunch hour. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Kelly and I to discuss not only this live event that we did today on live events, but any of our other try this at work scenarios that we've done on the Skype to Teams transitions. In 2 weeks, I believe Kelly is doing, I think it's First Line Worker, and then the following is apps and bots. So again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.